views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Hi, welcome. This is Dr. John DeMartini. This is one of the most amazing and inspiring shows that you can listen into. If you want to be on the edge of your seats, if you want to open up your heart, if you want to expand your mind, and you want to meet incredible people, stay tuned because you're just about to experience a transformative radio show that will change your life. And you're listening to the Dr. Pat Show that's coming up right next.
The following audio is via a Skype call.
Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Talk radio to thrive by. Powerful, inspiring, and coming to you live, bringing you stories of people like you and me busting through and living life full out. Get ready to dare to wonder what your life would be like if you knew you could not fail. Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. Welcome to Transformation Talk Radio. And welcome to TransformationRadio.fm. I'm Dr. Pat. I am also joined by my sidekick for today, Mr. Benny. How you be, B?
I be good. Thanks, Pat.
Benny, be good. Did I just come up with that? There we go. I
think we've heard that one before. Come on.
Oh, my gosh. Did you have a good weekend?
I did. Thanks very much for asking. I did a little park activities with the boys, and we also went to the Issaquah Salmon Hatchery out in Issaquah. Of course, the Salmon Days Festival is coming up very shortly here, and it's the running of the salmon, so they're coming back up the stream. So the boys got to see the salmon, making their way up and doing their thing, so to speak.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes I think we're salmon, and I think we can like swim upstream.
Mm-hmm.
But, we're not built like salmon. And although we think we can, we don't do a great job of it. Salmon, absolutely delicious. I have a friend who is a fisher person. He goes out on these fishing boats, wild caught, kindly caught fish. And he just brought me 2 cases. I'm not talking like 2 pounds. Like, imagine a case of these delicious, frozen on the boat, filleted, not a bone in them, on the boat. 2 cases of those for me for the winter.
Awesome. It's good stuff right there.
Gosh.
It's good stuff right there.
Oh, it is so good. Also what we do is really good, Benny, because, part of this is how do we raise our vibration? Now, you all have heard me talk about that, but sometimes we have to change it up a little bit. We have to look at what are we doing? How are we doing it? And, if it is not working the way you want, guess what? You got to have a change it up moment. Got to have one. And I'm not going to go into my little preacher change it up voice, Benny, for today, but it is so important to do that. Look, any of you that have been in sports and have watched sports, I'm not even going to mention the Seahawks today. But I just did. You're thinking to yourself, why don't they just do this? Why don't they just do that? Well, part of the issue is that we're caught in the middle of chaos. And most of the chaos is happening in our own minds. And it's one thing to say, I'm going to be out in the world, I'm going to live my best life. And inside, you are just boiling up. You have such anger, emotions, things going on. You're not quite sure what to do. And then maybe you do something strange. Maybe you hit that send button on Facebook, or maybe you say that thing on a phone call, or maybe if you're like me, you tell your boss, no way am I going to do that. Well, guess what? Today's show is to get some help. Doug Knoll is joining me here today. De-escalate your life. Now, why is this a powerful message, and what is it about Doug that is so perfect for this? Guess what? Successful trial lawyer for 22 years. Do you think maybe he knows a little bit something about this? But here he is. He has dedicated his life to constructive solutions to human conflict. Whether you're driving down the highway or somebody cuts you off, or you're in the middle of a battle with your community or legislation, it doesn't matter. Doug is somebody that knows how to turn that chaos and crisis into a state of peace and flow. This is his calling. Today, we have a couple of the books that we're going to give away today. He is an award-winning author of 3 books, teacher, speaker, trainer. This book, De-Escalate, how did he know? How did he know we would need to know how to calm an angry person in 90 seconds or less? Doug, it's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. Pat, it's great to be here.
I'm telling you, if we don't get to it in 90 seconds, it can get really ugly sometimes, can it?
Ugly and violent, absolutely.
Yeah. Growing up on the streets of New York City, I think that it's not just that New York City is different than other places in the world. It's not. But there are more opportunities, shall I say, to have conflict on a minute-by-minute basis because there's so many peoples, there's so many things. But that's not the trend we're seeing. We're seeing conflict or escalation, if we could just use that word, regardless of where we are. Aren't you seeing this as well?
Well, I think you're right. Today we happen to live in a very angry world, and part of that is caused by our political leaders who have used the anger for their own purposes. They really don't care about helping people. What they care about is aggrandizing power to themselves, and the way they do that is to appeal to narrow tribes, get those tribes angry and motivated, and what we have is what we have as a result of that.
This is really, in the world that you live in and writing this book, which is amazing, we have to have ways to get this handled. We really do. What have you found in your travels, in your talks, sharing your knowledge, sharing, some of the things you're, what do you hear people saying, Doug? What are they saying? What are they saying about feeling a loss of control or feeling emotional upheaval? What are folks saying?
Well, the sense I get is that people in the beginning of my workshops and my talks are skeptical that you can actually calm an angry person in 90 seconds or less. And then when they learn the skill set, and then practice it, they are absolutely amazed and thrilled that it actually works. They can't believe it actually works. And then when they do it, the first time it happens, they say, oh, that was just a fluke. And the second time they do it, that was kind of a fluke. And the third time they do it, they feel, wow, this stuff really works. I can de-escalate my world. I can calm people down, and it's easy. All I got to do is pay attention. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing people, I will also say, the book just came out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I have been so gratified by the response to the book. People everywhere are emailing me saying, thank you for writing this book. The tools are amazing. So I think it's really, the timing is right, and people are really resonating with the idea that that there are proven ways of calming people down. All we have to do is have the desire to do it and know how to do it. It's a skill. It's counterintuitive. It's not like anything anybody's ever done before, but it's not hard.
I was reading one of the reviews that folks wrote. And by the way, the book is available everywhere. But if you want to get it on Amazon, you can go to Amazon and, get a copy of the book, De-Escalate. But I was reading one of the reviews, and one of the things that I was really struck by is that a lot of times we think that this idea of de-escalation is something that we just use for our kids, right? Maybe a fight breaks out in a schoolyard, or, something happens in a sport. We see this 24/7, right? But it's not just for that. It's for pretty much every person in a relationship of some kind with another person.
That's right. And I would say that even if you're talking about kids, the way we go about dealing with conflicts with kids is completely wrong. It's emotionally invalidating and a very pervasive form of emotional abuse. And one of the things that I want to do is teach people other ways of dealing with children who are in conflict so that we don't abuse them, and we teach them emotional intelligence. Yeah. And it's very easy to do with these skills. But unfortunately, parents don't have these skills. Their parents didn't have the skills. And so what they pass on to the children is the message that emotions are bad. And that resonates in adulthood in many, many really negative ways.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you this question. I have a friend, and she's one of our hosts, Claudette Rowley. Her work is on building a brilliant culture. She talks about cultural brilliance. How much of an effect is it, Doug, in your opinion? How much of an effect is it on what goes on in the outside world? We alluded to before a few minutes ago. We alluded to the fact that we have some angry politicians. Now, I've seen angry politicians before. I mean, I'm like a 70s kid, right? So I've seen it before. But there's anger, and then there's anger. Are there 50 shades of anger here, Doug?
Oh, absolutely. Anger is, if we look at anger as a category, I mean, think of it this way. Think about when we think about an automobile. Mm-hmm. We can think of a million different kinds of automobiles that all fit within the category of the word automobile. Anger is the same way. When you think of anger, there are all kinds of instances of anger that represent the concept of anger that are really broad and deep in terms of our human experience. So, and it's almost three-dimensional in terms of the breadth and depth of what we experience when we experience this thing we call anger. And that's true for any emotion. Emotions are constructed in our brains automatically in the moment, and we learn categories of emotions. So absolutely, and we're seeing what I think we're seeing now, at least at the political level, is a manipulation that is really Machiavellian, maybe unintentional, but certainly Machiavellian, and certainly not good for the country or for the individuals that live in the country.
Yeah, and I think you and I are talking about many, many levels of this. Clearly there's this not good for the country at an emotional level, at a let's just call it a psycho-emotional level. But then there's not good for the country at a fear-based level.
Right. Exactly.
At touting war, things that really rise up and escalate. The escalation process within an individual goes off the charts. When we come back, I want to talk with you about that escalation that happens in people and what you decided to do with your life and why. We're talking about Doug Knoll joining us here today, peacemaker lawyer. Yes, I did say that. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Are you struggling in a relationship and deeply craving some tools and support to get things back on track? Do you crave having a loving, compassionate relationship with Mr. Right, but always seem to pick Mr. Wrong? Well, Sarah Luce can help. She's created a 4-week online course starting September 28th that will teach you how to shift your energy and behavior to have new transformative outcomes. And you're going to get a personal one-on-one session with Sarah to ensure you get powerful, personal results. Sign up today at sarahluce.com.
Tune in to Mainstream Metaphysics Radio to harness your connection with the universe to effect change for optimal success and happiness. Named one of the country's top psychics, Eve now brings her insights and gifts to this weekly hit call-in show, joined by visionaries, leaders, and gifted others, but mostly you. Jot it down, Thursdays, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Did you know that all of the shows on the Transformation Radio Network are available as podcasts to stream or download?
Really?
Check us out. Go to transformationradio.fm. We have business shows, spiritual shows, energy healing shows, and pretty much everything in between. Something for everyone, guaranteed to inspire, educate, and transform. We are transforming the world, one listener at a time.
Gain powerful insight and practical tools to support you on your spiritual journey. Access your higher self and tune in every second and fourth Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin, Walking the Path of Freedom. Andrew is a highly attuned, intuitive oracle, energy worker, spiritual teacher, and international radio host. For more about Andrew and his services, visit thelightones.com.
Chris Stanis is a spiritual leader and healer and teaches a course on how you can transform your life through a meditation and healing system that will manifest your spirit's dreams. She manifested the Women of Wisdom Conference, the Women of Wisdom book, and this radio show. And she can show you how to change your life too. Are you ready? Visit the website and contact her at voicesofwomentoday.com. That's voicesofwomentoday.com.
Discover the healing medicine from the giant monkey tree frog Cambo. Cambo practitioner Ginny Rutherford and professional psychic Todd Rolson have come together for lively discussions of alternative healing medicines from the Amazon. Ginny and Todd bring you Cambo Talk Radio. Tune in each Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific to hear from guests all over the world with real life stories and the medicinal benefits of Cambo. For more information, visit cambokiss.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. You know, this is one of these things that I'm so glad that I get to talk with Doug Noll today for a lot of reasons. One, he's fabulous. His work is so needed in the world today. Two, he and I are probably two of the least likely people to have been picked out of whatever school book to be doing what we're doing in the world today, but here we are. And three, the world needs the solution that he's been able to create for people. Doug, before we talk about escalation, de-escalation, mediation, first of all, congratulations on the book. And how can people find out more about you? How can they get a copy of the book?
So the book is available in all the usual places, but I have a benefactor who's put up some money, and we have a deal for people. If you're willing to pay the shipping and handling charge of $7, we'll buy the book for you. And we want you to have, we could give the book away, but we want people to have skin in the game. Mm-hmm. So if you'd like to take advantage of that offer, go to my website, DougNoll, DougNoll.com. And there's a banner there. Click on the banner. It'll take you to the order page. Just put in your shipping and credit card information. You'll be charged $7, and the book will be on its way to you in a couple of days. And you'll also get an opportunity if you're interested and want deeper learning. There's a video course that I have online, and you'll be able to get that too if you want it. You don't have to, of course, but it's there. We're offering that at a deep discount too, because it's very important that people learn these skills.
Yeah. And I want to just tell everyone that's listening. So when you find yourself looking at the book, I just want you to be prepared for the level of solution and possibility that Doug is bringing to the table. You know, you're going to be able to learn about what the secret to de-escalating is, but you're also going to learn that this is applicable to children that are upset, to adults. But most importantly, what are the skills that Doug helps us to learn? What does it mean to be an empathetic listener? Also, how do we resolve our own inner conflict? How do we do that? Bullying is not a way of life. Let's just get that really clear out of the gate. Bullying is not the new norm. Doug, thank you so much for today. Thank you for your kindness. I want to talk a little bit about what escalation is so that we can then understand de-escalation. You know, I was sharing something during the break where as a kid walking through Central Park, myself and some friends, all of a sudden we get jumped. Next thing I know, knives are flying, blood is flying, and people are dying. And I said something to you that my mom said, and growing up as kids, you know what? There's a point of no return. And you said, which I loved hearing, maybe, maybe not. We'll talk about it now. Let's talk about it now. But escalation, de-escalation, right. What is it?
So when we talk about escalation, from my perspective, we're talking about emotional escalation. Mm-hmm. That is that there's an arousal state that overcomes us that is going to dictate how we behave and how we respond to any given environmental condition that we find ourselves in, whether it's being jumped by a bunch of muggers in Central Park, or being deeply insulted by a boss or a coworker. Typically what's going to happen is most people do not have the skill set, have not been taught the skill set of how to de-escalate a situation or how to protect themselves from becoming escalated when they're confronted with a situation that would normally escalate people, whether it's a physical assault or a verbal assault. Now, from a physical assault, it's a little different. I mean, there you need to, if you really want to protect yourself there and be prepared, then you really need to have martial arts training. And I'm a secondary black belt and a Tai Chi master, so that kind of thing I understand. So we're really talking about verbal assaults that occur all the time, where people get angry, they become disrespectful. How do you protect yourself against having your brain escalate you to defend back? And so that you can maintain your calm and equanimity no matter what people are saying to you, no matter how loud they're screaming at you, no matter how disrespectful they are. And that's really the art of de-escalation, is understanding how to do that. 3 really simple steps, but they're very counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Stuff you would never think about. And the way I developed this was by first of all, fortuity. I stumbled across this idea in a mediation in 2004, and then I ran across a study by Matthew Lieberman, who I understand he was at UCLA, and now I understand he's at Harvard, who did brain scanning studies of this skill, of this technique, and showed what happens in our brains when this happens. And so now we have the science to explain what's really going on and why it works every time without fail.
Well, this is really kind of the answer to the pain that people are experiencing with escalation and levels of anger, levels of frustration, many, many language, many, many words we can use. I want to ask you this question. What have you seen in the work that you do in mediation? And if you could explain it I'd love to hear an example of maybe a scenario where you've actually used this, because once we go down the ugly pathway, there's really no way of knowing just how ugly it's going to get, is there?
Well, I mean, actually, it depends. Again, it depends. If you're trained like I am and have the experience that I do, when I look at human conflict, it's highly predictable.
Yeah.
There is no chaos. There is no drama. I know exactly what's going on with people. I know exactly what to do. I can watch their behaviors, watch how they act, watch how they talk, and I can assess what I need to do in the next moment to help them calm down and get into problem solving. For the untrained person, it looks like chaos and drama. But really, human beings are extremely predictable in the way that they respond to conflict. And once you understand that, then it's easy to have compassion for people and just say, oh, this person's just being really emotional right now, so I need to help them through that process. So let me tell you the story about how I stumbled on this, because I think it's the greatest example of how this works. So I was called into a mediation in 2004 in Santa Barbara, California, and it was a couple that had been divorced. They were married for some 20 years. The husband had ended up suing the ex-wife for $18,000 over a minor thing, but they'd spent $50,000 each on attorney's fees. And the attorneys had basically thrown up their hands and said, oh, these people are impossible. Noel, get in here and make this thing go away. So I had them in a conference room without any lawyers. And before I even sat down, they were already cussing each other out. I mean, at the top of their lungs. Some of the most insulting, vile language flying between them that you can possibly imagine. These people were, if they had guns, they would have literally shot each other. So I kind of sat there and watched them for a few minutes, kind of figuring out what to do. And I really didn't have a clue about how I was going to help these people. But then a thought came to me. It said, listen to the emotions. So I turned to the woman who we'll call Susan. I said, Susan, shut up. Shut up, everybody. Shut up. It was very directive. They kind of look at me stunned. And I said, Susan, I want you to listen to John, but I want you to ignore his words. And I want you to guess at what he's feeling. And then I want you to tell us what you think John is feeling. What are his emotions? So I got her agreement to do that. In the beginning, she could not do it. But finally, she started figuring it out. And she said, you're angry, you're frustrated. And got all the way through John's story about what this was all about. And she never once talked about his words. She only talked about his feelings. She only reflected back what he was feeling. And he kept saying, yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's right. Then I had John do the same process with Susan. Susan would tell her story. And she would be vile and cussing him out and just getting escalated. And he would say, "You're really angry. You're really frustrated." He'd ignore the words. This whole process took about 20 minutes, going back and forth, telling their stories and reflecting emotions. When they were done, John put his face in his hands and began to sob. And it was uncontrollable and, I mean, really powerful. And it took him about a couple minutes to clear it. And then he looked up at her and he said, "That's the first time you've listened to me in 25 years.
Oh.
And the case settled 5 minutes after that.
Oh.
And I said, "What the heck is going on here? What happened?" Well, I had no clue. All I knew is that I'd have this idea about listening to emotions. And then I ran across Lieberman's study 3 years later, and the light bulb went on. Oh, this is what happened. This explains why this labeling of emotions works. This is what's going on in the brain when this happens. Totally get it. So then I said, now how do I teach other people how to do this? So I started figuring out a curriculum to teach people how to do this. But I ran into resistance because people are so not used to listening to emotions. They're so used to listening to words. The idea of listening and reflecting back somebody's feelings felt really weird. And people felt vulnerable, and they felt like they were being stupid, or something was wrong here. So it's just taken a long time for me to understand that and to help people recognize that we're 98% emotional, 2% rational. The whole idea that human beings are rational is it's a myth.
Yeah.
It's always been a myth. The Enlightenment people were wrong. Plato was wrong. Augustine, the Bishop of Hippo, was wrong when he injected Neoplatonism into Christian theology. I mean, they're all wrong. Totally misguided. The law is wrong. It's all wrong. Totally misguided perspectives on what it means to be a human being.
I think it was wishful thinking, honestly. I really do.
Well,
I think it was wishful thinking.
It probably was. The thing is that people would see the devastation of uncontrolled emotions and say, "This is horrible." And so we have to be rational in order to avoid having these horrible emotional escalations that would cause all this problem. The difficulty is that up until just a few years ago, we didn't know anything about emotion. We didn't know how all this worked. And so that we had really inadequate tools for dealing with emotion, with other people's human emotions and our own. Now we have the tools, and they work, and they're powerful. It's brand new. This stuff is brand new. And so there's no wonder that people are a little skeptical, because I'm taking 4,000 years worth of knowledge and saying, "Nuh-uh, doesn't work. Here's the science. Here's how it works. Try it yourself and figure it out for yourself." So it's an interesting journey. And De-Escalate, the book, talks about all this.
It does. And that's what I love about this, is because, it really gives us an opportunity to change our point of view. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we've got 2 copies of Doug's book to give away. And the question really is, what can we learn from this approach, from what Doug is willing to share us? What can we learn before we hit that send button? The one on your email, the one on your Facebook page, the one on your Twitter account, the one that you're doing of the selfie. What can we learn before we literally take that finger and hit that piece of plastic? Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to start winning at the game of life? Lynn Brown, host of Get Into It, Winning at the Game of Life, is here to help you reach places and goals that you never thought possible. Lynn is an intuitive healer with a specialized background in financial healing. She combines her intuitive nature and her wholesome approach to financial planning. To learn more about her financial planning services, contact her personally at intuit.com.
Hi, this is Laura Richer, host of On the Verge Radio. Sometimes you hear encouraging messages like transform your life now, become empowered, create the life you crave, and it all seems overwhelming and you're not sure where to start. I'm here to tell you that self-improvement is not always fun and easy, but it is always worth it. The path to creating positive changes begins with releasing the things that have been holding you back. Then you can create a life that inspires you. I know this because I've done it. You can find out more about what I do by visiting my website, seattlehealinghypnosis.com. I look forward to supporting you on your journey.
Amber Teal, founder of The Healthy Edge, is bringing you the hit show Healthy Edge Radio, living with power, passion, and purpose. Amber provides the support and tools necessary for you to finally release the weight and emotions that are hidden beneath the weight. Tune in each month on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information on how you can take the next step with Amber, visit getthehealthyedge.com. Live your magnificence, for the love of joy is a precious gift offered to us by Robert Schoenfeld, host of the Art of Powerful Living Radio. He takes us on an incredible 30-day adventure to expand our minds and hearts with the nectar of life, love, and joy. This book will help you bring more joy, love, health, abundance, adventure, romance, and magnificence into your life.
Tune in to The Truth is Funny with Colette Steffen each Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This hit show will have you thinking outside the box and riding the wave of infinite potential. Join Colette on the Higher Self Network, inspiring listeners to shine their brilliance and ensure success while roaring with laughter as they recognize the humor of the giant cosmic joke. Visit thetruthисfunny.com.
Calling all moms, it's time to awaken your vibrant, intuitive, loving self in every area of your life. Join host Debbie Pokornik as she shares thoughts, stories, and tools to help you stand in your power. Listen to Vibrant, Powerful Moms helping everyday women create extraordinary lives. Mondays at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. For more information about Debbie, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com.
Hey, everybody, welcome back, welcome back. Benny, let's give a first copy of the book away, which I'd love to do. De-Escalate Your Life and the World. And yes, both your life and the world. My very special guest today, Doug Noll, is joining me here today. First copy of the book we'd love to give away, 1-800-930-2819. 1-800-930-2819. Doug, let's take a minute too and let folks know how they can find out more about you. But you're also involved in creating a project, a way for people to engage in the Prison of Peace project. Can you tell us a little bit about that before we get back to the topic here?
Sure. One of the things that happened, as I was saying earlier, is that I was facing a lot of skepticism and ridicule about this idea of listening to emotions. And so an opportunity came up with a colleague of mine, Laurel Coffer, to teach murderers how to become peacemakers. And that started with a letter that we received from a woman serving a life sentence without possibility of parole, who was then incarcerated in the largest, most violent women's prison in the world, which happened to be here in California. And we started the Prison of Peace Project, and our foundational skill was learning how to listen to the emotions of others, because if inmates could de-escalate each other, they could stop the violence. And from there, we taught them how to be peacemakers, then ultimately trained them in mediation skills. Well, we started with 15 women. It became so popular so fast that we had a waiting list of over 200 women. So we decided we needed to train trainers, and slowly it expanded. We were in the women's prison for 3 years. It was repurposed to a men's prison. We started getting calls from the warden saying, would you please come back and teach the men? We said no, because this is all pro bono. We weren't getting paid a dime for this work, and it was just sucking us dry. But finally we said yes. So then it was 3 more years in the men's prison, having exactly the same results. Teaching guys how to be men and women, how to be peacemakers and mediators. They were stopping gang riots. They were stopping violence. They were mediating, peacemaking, reconciling families. I mean, the stories were unbelievable. And then finally, we were about to close the whole project down because we weren't getting paid, and we couldn't afford to continue to do this, when we got a substantial grant from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. And now we are in 9 prisons in California. We have a colleague who came over and studied with us, and she has started Prison of Peace in Greece. So all the materials have been translated into Greek, and she's got 6 more prisons that are going to open there. And we are now in discussions. We got a planning grant to see whether or not we can do a project in Connecticut with the Connecticut prisons. What we have found is that that when you're dealing with inmates, especially lifers and long-termers, a certain group of those people are attracted to the idea of becoming a peacemaker and changing their lives. Mm-hmm. We take them through a very rigorous curriculum. We teach it like a graduate course because we're both graduate law professors, and we train at a very high level, and they just change before our eyes. We're working. One story that I think is so funny that illustrates this is we're working at Corcoran State Prison, which is one of the two very intense secured lockdown facilities in California. We're working in the secured housing unit. We're really literally 100 feet away from where Charles Manson is housed in his cell. Mm. And we're working with people who are coming out of gangs, men who are coming out of gangs. These people have led nothing but violent lives. So about 6 weeks into our training, we got a call from the warden, and he said, "What are you guys doing? My inmates don't want to leave here. They are saying, don't move me out. I need to finish this training. Please don't move me out." And I mean, these guys are in shackles, and I mean, it's secured housing at the highest level. Wow. And they are so appreciative and so amazed at what they're learning, even though they come in extremely skeptical, can't believe that there's anybody from the outside who can teach them something that would be useful to them. And we do. And they become extremely powerful peacemakers. And, it's just been an incredible project. We've trained over 1,000 inmates. We've had I'd say we probably have 300 or 400 that have been released to our knowledge. 0 reports of recidivism so far, no reoffending. And the people inside have really quieted prisons down. That first prison we started in, Valley State Prison for Women, we got an unsolicited letter from the warden saying, as a result of Prison of Peace, the prison is completely quieted down.
Wow.
And here's the thing that really gives me hope. We were talking earlier about our nation and communities. What we learned was it takes a very small population of people, very small percentage of the total population committed to peace, using practical, effective tools like I teach in De-Escalate, to change things around. We don't need to have I'd like to have 10 million people buying the book, but in any given community, I just need 1% of the people trained in and using these skills, and within a year, everything will change. It's that fast, and it is amazing to watch how it spreads virally throughout a population. And if it works in a maximum security prison, I have no reason to believe that it won't work on the outside.
What a great story that you just shared, because you're right about that. I want to ask you this question, and I know you cover it in the book, and the difference between escalation and what do I want to say? Evil and violence. Let's just call it evil and violence, right?
Right. The question that I raised in the book is how, as a mediator, how do we respond to evil?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first thing to do is to define what is evil. What do we mean by evil?
Yeah, please.
It's not just that I don't like you and I don't like your beliefs and you're evil because you don't agree with evil is something much more malevolent than that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And evil to me is a situation in which one person has seriously harmed another person for the perpetrator's own purposes. And there's just no moral justification for what's gone on here. None whatsoever, under any standard of moral engagement. That's evil. And the question is, how do you engage somebody who's done an evil act and really harmed somebody? How do you engage them? And I think you can't. I'm not going to say it's always going to be successful, but I don't think you can turn your back on evil. I think people can be reformed. They can be transformed if they're given an opportunity to tell their story and they feel empathically listened to. Even if they're evil people, they're still human beings. They can change, or at least they can begin to understand a little bit about what they've done. Now, whether or not there's a reconciliation, whether or not things are made right, whether or not we prevent this from happening again, all open questions. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things about being a peacemaker is that you're always living in anxiety, uncertainty, because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we don't ignore it. We can't turn our backs on it.
Yeah, and I just want to really, I want to really explore this with you, because it's no mistake this year at the Emmy Awards, which just were a weekend ago, one of the top films for winning all sorts of awards was this film or this short-term television series. I think it's HBO. Big Little Lies, right? With these women and the lives they live. There could have been at least 1 to 50 pages out of that series where you watch this level of escalation and de-escalation. One of the things that I will tell you, there is a scene from that is literally taken an entire chapter out of your book. When you watch it, these two women who one comes to the other woman's house, not to confront her, but to share with her that she understands her pain. And I'm reading the book and I'm watching it because I didn't watch the series all the way through. And I'm getting ready for this show. And I thought, oh my goodness, how beautiful is that? And what I'm now hearing you say, it's not just TV. It's not just Hollywood. This really does work. Is there a point, though, that I want to ask you about where you got to know when to hold them and you got to know when to fold them?
Well, sure. As I teach these skills, I tell people you are now have the power to create a deep empathic connection with another person. And you have to use a lot of discernment about when you want to do this and when you don't. You have no obligation to listen to people. You only listen to them when you want to and when you think it's in your own best interest to do this for one reason or another.
Okay.
One of the funnier sides of this is I always tell my women graduate students as I'm teaching this, I say, be very careful, ladies, that how you use this, especially around single men. And invariably, I give them a homework assignment to go out and try this on a Friday night and come back Saturday morning and tell us what happened. And the story that always cracks me up is a young woman, very attractive student of mine, shows up Saturday morning, and I say, okay, so tell me what happened. And I look at her and I say, so tell me what happened, Sylvia. And she starts to laugh. And she said, well, I was in the Starbucks line this morning and intending to use the skill on the barista like you taught us yesterday. And this guy behind me drops all his papers on the ground. So I bend over politely and pick him up. And I look at him and I say, you must be really frustrated and embarrassed that all this happened.
Oh, God.
And he looked at her and he said, I couldn't get him off me. He was all of a sudden started hitting on me like crazy. It was exactly what you said would happen. We all started laughing. I said, I'm telling you, this stuff is powerful. Don't screw around with this stuff, you know. So,
it's part of the learning, though. And, you know, this is what you teach people. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk with Doug about, listen, you know, can anyone do this? Is this something, the tools, learning exactly what Doug talks about in the book, the work he does, can anyone learn this? What do you need to have to learn de-escalate? Stay tuned.
How about if I give them the secret tips when we come back?
I love it. That's the secret.
All right. We'll give them the 3 secret steps.
Let's get it. We'll be right back, everybody.
Thrive is what we experience when our mind, body, and soul operate as one. When we thrive, we excel on all levels. Thrive is the mindset that matters. It is essential to our being. Have you ever found yourself looking for the instruction manual on how to thrive? You'll find everything you need to help you feel strong, powerful, and peaceful in your own body. So don't waste any more time. Visit thrivebyjen.com today.
Are you traveling most of your day? Do you want to take Transformation Talk Radio with you anywhere you go? Well, guess what? There's an app for that. Just go to the App Store on your Apple device or the Google Play Store on your Android and search Transformation Talk Radio. Catch all of our live shows no matter where you are. Thanks for listening.
In this day and age, if you don't reinvent yourself, you may never find balance, peace, and the sustainable life that is your birthright. Angela Watson Robertson, known as the Reinvention Warrior and the host of breakthrough radio show Masters of Reinvention, is here to help you reinvent every area of your life. Tune in and hear from the best in the personal transformation business and discover tips and tools for positive change. Live every month on Transformation Talk Radio.
Tune in to the Psychic Professors Show, The Voices of Spirit Radio, with international medium and spirit artist Dr. Susan Barnes on Transformation Talk Radio, featuring a variety of spiritual topics such as psychic art, spiritualism, EVP, psychic development, and mediumship. This hit call-in show provides listeners with breakthrough wisdom to enliven and enlighten their lives. Visit spiritartgallery.net for show days and times.
Get ready to experience Truth Talk Radio with host Deb Acker. Tune in to Truth Talk Radio each Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com to illuminate the truth in your daily life as you experience life, love, and abundance from a whole new perspective. This hit show will leave you feeling lighter and bring you into a place of infinite possibilities every day in every way. Visit TruthTalkRadioshow.com for upcoming transformative topics and guests.
Interested in deepening your spiritual practice? The School for Esoteric Studies offers online training to spiritual seekers from all paths of life and individual coaching. Our courses synthesize Eastern and Western spiritual traditions based on meditation, study, and service applied to everyday life. To learn more about our courses and services, please visit www.esotericstudies.net.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. We're talking about de-escalate your life. We've talked about why, and we've talked about what. And, you know, Doug Knoll is joining me here today. He is the author of this fabulous book. It is a must read for any of you out there, whether you have children, not children, whether you're in communities, lively in action, whether you're in relationships with significant others. This is the way you get some help. You get a remedy. And for those of you out there, 1-800-930-2819, copy of the book. Doug, again, before we tell folks about the secrets, how can they find out more about you?
Website, really simple, Doug Knoll, DOUGNOLL.com. And if you forget that, just type in my name, Doug Knoll or Douglas Knoll. I'm all over Google. Really easy to find. But DougKnoll.com is my primary website. You can learn more about me than you'd ever care to know by going there.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to share some tips now because we were talking a little bit during the break. And, you know, we're not going to know what works until we try. Chances are we're not going to try if we don't know what to do. So you're going to help us out.
That's right. Take out a pencil and paper. There's going to be a quiz at the end. Oh. I'm a law professor. I can't help myself. Oh. All right. Step number one. You're confronted with somebody who's really escalated. It's a 2-year-old having a tantrum, or your spouse, your husband, your partner, or your child, or maybe a coworker. This is what you're going to do. Step number one, you're going to ignore the words. For the next 90 seconds, it's just noise. You know what they're saying anyway, so why pay attention to it? They're cussing you out. They're screaming. They're yelling. They're going crazy. They're being disrespectful. They're being vile. It doesn't matter. Ignore the words. Got that? Drill that in. I ignore the words. Step number two. Guess at what you think they might be experiencing emotionally. What are their feelings right now? And of course, you're going to see anger and frustration, but there's going to be stuff underneath it too. Look for the stuff. Don't look for the presenting emotion, the anger, frustration, whatever it might be, but then look underneath and say, what else might there be? And then the third thing you're going to do, and this is the secret sauce and the counterintuitive part to all of this, is you are going to reflect back the emotions that you've guessed at to the speaker using a very simple use statement. So I'd say, Pat, you are really angry. You are so pissed off you can hardly see straight. You're really frustrated. Nobody's listening to you. You feel completely unsupported. And you feel kind of sad and lonely because it looks like you got to do this project all by yourself, and that's making you really, really angry. Mm-hmm. That's hot. That's all you do, just like that. And you wait, and you watch for four things. You're looking for a vertical nod of the head, yeah, uh-huh, and you're listening for that, yeah, uh-huh, exactly, verbal response, a dropping of the shoulders, and a deep sigh of relief. When you see those four things, all of which are involuntary, the speaker doesn't even know that he or she is doing that, then you've touched them in a very deep way, and you've de-escalated, and then you can move on to problem solving. And that's the next step is what do you do after you de-escalate? You've got to move into problem solving. Usually you do that. Sometimes de-escalation is sufficient to itself.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the secret. Now, here's where people get hung up. They don't use you statements. You have to use a you statement for this to work. If you say, what I think you're feeling, Pat, is that you're angry, that will never work. That will just piss people off. Do not use I statements when you're talking about somebody else's feelings. You have to use you statements. And the second thing that you don't do is you don't ask a question. Pat, are you angry? Don't do. Yeah, you're laughing because people have done that before, and all it does is make you angrier. Of course I'm angry. How come you're not listening to me? So you have to be a little vulnerable about this, and you have to be willing to be wrong, because sometimes you will be wrong. You can guess at the emotion, but remember, you're guessing. You're not mind reading. But what's the beauty about this, Pat, is that if I said, hey, Pat, you're really angry, and you weren't angry, you said, no, I'm really frustrated. Oh, Pat, you're really frustrated. Yeah, I'm really frustrated. I just did it.
Yeah.
And my experience has been that, and the science shows that when you mislabel an emotion, you will get corrected immediately, and you just come back with a correction. And people are so grateful that you are trying to hear them at a deep level, listening them into existence is what I call it, that you are listening them into existence, that they will correct you and expect you to come back with a correction.
I would imagine the thing not to do, if I could go to a not to do, is that if you say, gee, Doug, you sound angry, or you're this, or you whatever that is, and the person comes back and says, no, I'm not angry, I'm frustrated, and you say, well, it sounds more like anger to me, Doug.
That could be
that's like a no-no.
That is a huge no-no.
That's a no-no.
You're interjecting your own ego here. You're going to park your ego at the door. And the beauty of it is if you ignore the words and pay attention to the emotions and only reflect back what you think they're feeling, you can park your ego at the door, and then something else very cool happens. You go into a transcendent state of oneness. This is a spiritual practice too.
Yeah, it is.
And you will end up, your ego will dissolve, and you'll feel your higher self operating in the zone where you're completely impervious to whatever they might say to you, and yet you're completely one with them and able to understand and have compassion for them effortlessly. It's an amazing place to be, and anybody can achieve it just by doing these 3 steps.
I want to just ask you this question because it's going to, and hopefully we'll have enough time left. Even if we don't have access to the individual, right? Let's say we're not in front of that individual. We don't have a way to communicate with them. Does it help us on one end of it to express that?
Yes. I've seen this work in letters.
Yeah.
I've seen it work in texting and emails. It works better if you're in front of physically with the person, but it will still work if you're communicating with another person in some way or another. And obviously, the more distant the connection, such as texting or email, going to be less effective than in person, but it will still work. And it has worked in letters in really beautiful and wonderful ways. A couple of the stories I describe in the book describe how that has happened. Over the telephone, it works wonderfully. I've had, just a week ago, I had an inmate, a male inmate, tell me about how he started using these skills, and now his family, instead of wanting to get off the phone as fast as possible, want to stay on the phone and talk to him because he is listening to them, not trying to tell them what his experience is.
Wow, how freeing this must be for people, especially folks that feel like they don't really have an alternative to life, that, they have no destiny, they have no future. So, this is a new pathway to freedom, isn't it, for folks?
It is. It's brand new. It's all based on new neuroscience and our understandings of emotions and what they are. And it is incredibly and powerfully effective. I use this in my mediation practice on a daily basis. On a really hot case or a conflict where people are really, really angry with each other, I might do this 50 times a day to keep people calmed down. And it works, and it keeps them focused. Again, calm down quickly, then we can go back to focusing on, okay, what do we need to do here? What's the problem? How are we going to solve this?
And don't give up if you don't do it, quote, right the first time, right?
Well,
It's like anything. You got to learn
Let's talk about that. Don't do this in really high-risk situations to begin with. Do it, like I said, go to your Starbucks barista and say, hey, you look really happy this morning. Spend a week or two practicing this in really low-risk social situations where the risk of failure is very, very low until you have convinced yourself that it really does work. Then you can start upping the ante a little bit and take on something a little more difficult. But if you try right at the beginning, you're going to be rough at it, and people might give you pushback, like, "Oh, who the hell do you think you are, my psychotherapist?" Mm-hmm. And so you'll get that pushback when you are not subtle enough. So you have to learn subtly. It has to become part of you and part of your conversation. And then when it does, it will be magical what you will see.
Wow.
Incredible.
Well, Doug, thank you for today. Thank you for the time. Thank you for your generosity. And I have one last question. I'd love to know your personal message. I'd love to know what you would like to leave us with here today.
Peace is not a noun. If we want peace in our lives, which means not the absence of conflict, but the ability to maintain centered and calm in the midst of chaos. If we want that state to be around us, we have to work at it. And so if we want peace, we have to do peace. And we do peace by starting with this foundational skill of learning how to listen to the emotions of others and reflect that emotional experience back with a simple you statement that allows them to be listened into existence. And that's the beginning of it all. Once we can do that, everything else falls into place. But we have to take that step if we want to do peace.
And I just want to say to everybody, everything is outlined in the book. Go to Amazon, check it out, De-Escalate. My very special guest joining me here today, Doug Knoll. Doug, thank you for today. Thank you for all that you're doing in the world.
Thank you.
Awesome. We're going to take a short break, everybody. We're not done yet. Got more coming up here on the Dr. Pat Show.
The preceding audio was via a Skype call.